We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Mike, before we get into the Senior Bowl and the practices, obviously what you come to this city for,
Yeah.
I kind of want to set the stage for what media, coaches, GMs, scouts all do when they're not at practice, right? I think it's important to identify the wins after practice because I think they're pretty good.
Well, I think just kind of setting the stage for like what you see on the field too is helpful in terms of like when, how all the reports are, Mike Tomlin. It's like a poorly kept secret that he was eyeing Malik Willis because kind of how it's set up at Hancock Whitney Stadium is all the media are in the stands on one side of the football field. And then pretty much all the high end personnel. So each NFL team gets, I think it was 5 passes for the field. And then the rest of them are up in like the press boxes and the actual boxes of the stadium. All the scouts and whatever are crammed into these tiny boxes that they all have for themselves. But the high-end guys, whether it's usually head coach, GM, director of college scouting, whatever, are all there on the football field as well. And so you can tell who they are literally following around practice. Like you can see their movements, where they're at. And I saw Mike Tomlin literally hop in and start running a drill with a defensive lineman looking right at Travis Jones, the Connecticut defensive tackle, like trying to help him out. And it's like, oh, maybe he has some interest in this dude, maybe playing nose tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the future, and obviously following around Malik Willis to see what he was doing as well.
I think Tomlin's one of the more obvious situations, right, where the coach is on the football field, he's going drill to drill, and specifically looking at guys. I think 90% of the other coaches that were on the field, and PFF was able to get on the field, shout out to the Senior Bowl, 90% of it, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's one coach and another, shoulder to shoulder like this, kind of just like whispering.
Power stance.
It's power stances, wide base, and you're just like whispering takes or like whispering. And sometimes it's not even from the same team, right? Because all these scouts have like talked to each other at one event or another, or they used to work for this team and now they work for a new team. So much of it is definitely this small talk that does generate the buzz, right? When you hear big reporters saying, what I'm hearing is this, what I'm hearing is that, it is these conversations that you see on the sideline, first starting at the East West Shrine Bowl, then the Senior Bowl, then it gets into the Combine, these pro days, and that's how these rumors start to go. So I do think we've already heard some of the Tomlin, Malik Willis stuff, and among others as well.
But then you don't get the rumors actually kind of slip up and get let loose until later in the day when everyone, there's like a kind of 4-block area of Mobile, Alabama, which is very similar to I don't want to call it a poor man's New Orleans, but it's very much like New Orleans. It has very New Orleans feel to it. But if New
Orleans culture,
if New Orleans was a city of 150,000, yeah, exactly. Like it is just a much smaller version in terms of how it is, and so there's probably about a 3-block radius where all the bars are filled to the brim with NFL personnel, media, whatnot, going and getting hammered.
Yeah, that's true. At Beats last night, I don't even know if I told you the story. At Beats last night, we get into the bar. I'm waiting in line to use the bathroom. And the Beats, there's only 2 bathrooms, and they're both like single bathrooms. It's not like a stall and urinal situation. And I'm waiting in the bathroom, and it's a long line in the men's, all dudes. Oh, yeah, that's another thing, too. The ratio is like 95, it's like 98% dudes. Okay, like there are no women out here at the Senior Bowl. At Beats, it is all men. That is it. I don't think there's any other bar experience in my calendar year where it's that biased of a ratio.
Yeah, even Combine is far more.
Yeah. Well, Indianapolis is like a real city, right? Like Mobile, obviously, significantly smaller. But so I'm in line for this bathroom, and this guy is like taking a while. I'm waiting, and then I hear him washing his hands, and he's drying them with the air dryer. It's like, hey, dude, just fucking put it on your pants. Let's get out of here. Then he takes a second dry. This guy's making sure he's coming out clean, and I'm like, dude, why is this guy drying his hands? It's piece of shit. Then he comes out, it's Mark Brunell. Mark Brunell comes out, the coach, the quarterback's coach for the Lions, and he said hi. I don't think he heard me, but I was like, okay, I need to reel it in. We need to reel it in. But yeah, no, it's been fun mingling with those guys and talking to those guys. You meet a lot of media, right? So much of it is media, guys that work with The Ringer, The Athletic, ESPN, even guys who are working with some of the smaller outlets like Locked On and other things like that.
That actually reminds me of a story from earlier in the week that I didn't tell on one of the earlier podcasts, but I'm going to the bathroom at Hancock Whitney Stadium and wash my hands, and I'm trying to like rush back to get on watch because I'm in the middle of practice, had to go pee. So I wash them and like one quick wipe dry, get out, and a guy stops me right outside. He's like, "Hey, Mike Renner." I'm like, "Yeah, how's it going?" Shake his hand, and my hand is dripping wet. Oh. When I shake his hand, I completely was like, "Oh shit!" As soon as I grabbed his hand, I could tell, and he could tell, and it was not great.
We're talking stories. Should we talk about the story from 2 years ago?
Oh, okay. That's more actual bodily fluids.
We go to the beats 2 years ago. So in 2020, after, right before COVID obviously hit. Yeah. So this is in January, February of 2020. We're going to the Senior Bowl, and this guy's walking around with white pants, and it's dude central. It's late, 12:31. And there's like an obvious stain on the back of his pants, like in the area where it would be poop. And it's like, there's no other way around it, right? And like, there's only 3 nights in this week where you get to go to Veets and you get to network, right? So much of this event is networking, right? Like there's content out of it. You talk to players, you talk to coaches. I would argue 90% of the value is coaches talking to coaches, media talking to media, networking and trying to gain more information and all that kind of stuff. So this guy obviously is prioritizing the networking at Veets over changing his pants.
Over clean undies.
So that was...
Who hasn't had to make that decision
the classic,
at some point in their life?
The classic, like, pointing, like, dude, did that guy poop? And it was a good time.
I mean, like, you went by him and he did. He had shit his pants. It smelled.
It's an incredible time out here. As you guys could tell, this has been a fantastic trip. No poop yet, but you don't know that. And speaking of...
I mean, we still got another night. If not more. What
are your goals tonight? Where do you go? You were going out. What are your goals? Not to poop, obviously.
Not to poop. I don't know. I was going to meet with some of the Saints staff. I haven't seen those guys since they were at the Shrine Bowl too.
The Saints staff was fun.
Those guys light it up.
That guy gets after it.
We met them at a bar after the tailgate tour after the LSU Florida game. And those are good dudes.
They were good dudes. Yeah. They were good dudes. Let's get into our biggest winners and most disappointing on the Senior Bowl. Before we do, the presenting sponsor of the Tailgate podcast is DraftKings. The moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here. In honor of the big game, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet for almost a third of the country. If Sportsbook isn't in your state yet, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. 21 years or older, see DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call the TN Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY. Now, before we get into biggest winners and losers or fallers or most disappointing, it's important.
Is probably a better way to phrase
Disappointing is probably the best way to phrase this, right? You go to the Senior Bowl with high expectations for a lot of these guys. Guys that are top 100, top 150 players on PFF's draft board. They show up, get to go toe-to-toe with some of the best prospects in this class. I think in an article from The Athletic, they wrote that 85% of the people at the Senior Bowl last year got drafted. And I think that numbers could be even higher this year. These are a lot of talented players. You go in with high expectations. It's okay to say some of these guys may be disappointed while others obviously rose to the occasion. Let's start with the quarterbacks, right? Have a ton of talent in the quarterback room here in the Senior Bowl. Stuff that I think every single major media outlet has talked about is just how good this group of Senior Bowl quarterbacks is, because we have 5 of the top 6 right now. Malik Willis of Liberty, Sam Howell of North Carolina, Bailey Zappi of Western Kentucky, Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh, Desmond Ridder of Cincinnati, and then Carson Strong of Nevada. 5 of those 6 guys are top 6 quarterbacks on PFF's draft board. The only one not in attendance is Matt Corral. And get this, big
6
winner.
of those guys are top 7.
6 of them. You love to see that. I was talking to Doug Hyde, reporter here at PFF, and one of the quotes that he got from, I think it was a scout, was saying the biggest winner here at the Senior Bowl is Matt Corral. Because some of these quarterbacks have not looked like all that great, right? Like they have not separated themselves. No one's coming out of this. There might be, of these quarterbacks, maybe you have a higher opinion on Malik Willis coming out than maybe you did going in. But there are a lot of these guys that kind of like either just met expectations. But for you, maybe not Matt Corral. Who's the biggest winner of this week?
I think it was Malik Willis. And
only because Mike Tomlin loved him. That drew a lot of that. Yeah, I have to admit, you drew a lot of the buzz, though.
No, I think the arm stood out. Just this arm strength. And obviously, so the Zebra tracking data has gone back since 2018, tracking ball speeds, player speeds, whatnot. He had the fastest throw of any quarterback over that time span, which obviously included guys like Jordan Love and Justin Herbert, who have big arms in their own right. He had a 74-mile-per-hour throw, which is, like I said, the fastest of anyone over that time span. And even just any throw he was making was a tick and noticeably faster than guys with strong arms. Like Sam Howell, Carson Strong, those guys have cannons in their own right, plus arms by NFL standards even. And Malik Willis was a plus. It was legitimately stood out. And I think just the comfortability with an offense that wasn't like what he was running at Liberty whatsoever was there by day 2 and by the end of the week for certain. So I will say, though, if you go PFF draft guide, read what is the biggest thing that he can improve, that he needs to improve. It says Willis' pocket presence is still an issue. Slight pressure causes him to fully break out of play structure. Playing quicker and more on schedule have to be a point of emphasis. That is what I wrote about him as the biggest thing he needs to improve in the draft guide. You cannot tell that whatsoever in a situation like this.
Of course.
This is not, you are in practice. You are not getting hit. You can hold the ball however the hell long you want, and you're not going to be, quote unquote, under pressure. So still didn't get to see that aspect of it, but I do think there is some value to be gleaned from his performance in that he was under pressure a lot at Liberty. He had a dog shit offensive line. And so just getting him into a relatively better situation, he did look night and day in terms of just how comfortable he was playing from the pocket.
I would agree with you 100%. I think ultimately what comes of this too is you're going to more consistently see Malik Willis as people's QB1 and consistently mocked as the number 1 quarterback in the draft. I think Benjamin Albright tweeted earlier that the Steelers are locking in, right? Mike Tomlin wants Malik Willis. They're going to have to trade up a lot higher from where they're at if they want to go get Malik Willis. I think the NFL's view of him is moving up and up really as the weeks go on. I think it's easy to pick Malik Willis. I could have agreed with you here, but I want to add someone else. I want to add Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder of the University of Cincinnati. I did not have super high expectations on Ridder. I feel like we've talked a lot about Malik Willis, talked a lot about Sam Howell, Matt Corral, but Ridder, man, has come in, looked very comfortable, and he can spin it too, right? Like maybe he doesn't have this Malik Willis level arm talent, but I do think he has enough on the ball. I think he was one of 2 quarterbacks, according to Zebra Technology, that had a throw go over 70 miles per hour. Like he can put some spin on the ball. I think he looked good in the rainy practice. Today there was some wind in the indoor facility. I think Desmond Ridder solidified his status of being really good, right? I think a lot of people, even when we had Nate Tyson from The Athletic, talked about he's got a high floor, right? Like he is going to come in and know how to set protections and has done a lot of things for a long time at the University of Cincinnati. And I still think he has room to improve. So I think Desmond Ridder came out of this week. I think more people are going to have a positive opinion on Ridder than people did have coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him coming in the draft guide. He got grade-wise first/second, right on that borderline of that. So I was a fan of his. So I didn't really... I guess he didn't. So these winners, losers are kind of about expectations going in. Some of the offensive linemen there look like dog shit, but we didn't expect them to look good. So we're not going to dog on them and be like, hey, they're a loser. It's well, that was what we expected. So the guy I will highlight that as like I said, most disappointing for me at the quarterback position was Kenny Pickett. Not only the hand size, which was kind of something that was known going into this, but I thought he had just visually the weakest arm of the bunch. The weakest arm in the group there, including Bailey Zappi, throughout the week. He had struggled mightily to play in the rain. That was actually an issue. That day 2 of practice for him was ugly at times. And then just no high end. I think everyone at the quarterback position had a throw on that they put on tape where it was okay, damn. That's real. That's a nice pick, except for Kenny Pickett. He just didn't have a great week of practice, sadly.
And how much of that arm, you brought up that he maybe had the weakest arm of anyone here. How much of that is just getting that grip on the ball, right? There was a couple throws in the red zone where he just completely sails it, goes way above people's head. And it's just it's getting away from his hand. I don't know. I don't want to focus too much on the hand size stuff, but it did show up, right? You did see it at least in the times that we watched him this week.
Again, it's hand size for the vast majority of quarterbacks isn't an issue. It's the outliers for any sort of physical measurement where it raises a flag. And for him to have that and then look the way he did, that flag's still up. That flag's still fucking waving.
That's a great point. I had Pickett as my biggest loser as well. Running back. We've talked a ton about all-star balls and how it's not always super easy to glean a ton of information from the running back opportunities you get at the Senior Bowl, specifically in practice. But I know you came away really impressed with Jerome Ford of Cincinnati.
Yeah, I like him for a number of reasons. I think he's an explosive athlete, and I thought of him kind of as more of a speed back at Cincinnati, but I think he came here and showed me a lot in terms of his receiving ability, like a little more wiggle than I thought to get open as a receiver, and then some more natural hands to where that was kind of the box that I wanted to see ticked, and he ticked it. And so that I already had, like I said, pretty high opinion of him, but I think he's pretty firmly a top 5 running back in this class coming away from this.
I think he was most impressive this week too, right? I think Jerome Ford came in, was the most impressive this week. However, I want to give some highlights or give a shout out to Damian Pierce of Florida. He's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. He's a little small, 5'9", but
he's not a little small. That dude's a fucking
short.
A little short.
Little short, but he's 220 pounds, 5'9", 220, and held up so well, specifically in the pass protection drills. He was consistently called out to go into pass protection, go against some of these bigger linebackers, and held his own really, really consistently. So super excited about what Damian Pierce has done. And I know Trevor has had time to talk to the Florida back and loves his personality, loves how engaging he is. And then the addition to that, I thought he looked good as a pass catcher as well. I think Damian Pierce made himself some money this week.
Yeah, his work in pass protection had to have turned some heads. Had to have, because coaches love that. Yeah, exactly. That's coaches need. You can't see the field on certain downs if you can't do that, and he quite clearly can do that. He had the highlight of the end of Tuesday. Practice ended by him just stonewalling DeMarco Jackson on a blitz pickup. That was just very, very impressive. So I think he can come in, and now he never was a bell cow at Florida, but he can come in and be that guy on third downs for whichever team you want.
Oh, whoa, yawning! Wow,
thanks, dude.
How about some of the most disappointing running back?
The most disappointing to me was Arizona State's Rashad White. I had high hopes for him as a receiver, and thought with just kind of his physical skill set that he could even move to receiver. And the hands I thought were great. He still does, but just so terribly raw in terms of what he's doing as a route runner. Like I said, I think the physical ability could still be there, but indecisive routes, it's just so wholly uncrisp to where he's never done. It looks like he's just never done anything in that regard. So, love the natural hands, love the, natural running ability in the open field that he possesses, but this guy can't be a starting back with kind of that skill set. He's like a project at running back, which is almost something you'd never say, and especially a guy who's a senior coming up.
I don't think I had an overly disappointing running back beyond Rashad White. I think I could have slotted Rashad White into, especially after we watched this film together and watched some of those routes. It's oh my gosh. But I will say Jeremiah Hall, the tight end fullback, 6'2", 248. I think he came in a little bit lighter than that. But Jeremiah Hall struggled to create separation as a pass catcher, wasn't overwhelmingly great in pass protection. And there were a handful of other drills too in special teams where you just didn't see a lot of flash from him. I think Jeremiah Hall, I won't call him disappointing because I didn't have high expectations for him on the week, but I will say it wasn't a great week for Hall.
How are you going to dog a fullback like that?
That's on
They're
me.
just out there trying to, live their best life.
That's on me. I was trying to just differentiate from just dogging on White back to back, but I do think that Hall could have had a better week, but it did not pan out. Wide receiver, go ahead and give me your winner.
I'm going to go Jalen Tober. I think came in with high expectations, the South Alabama wide receiver, and just met him. And so in a class where, I don't know, there might not be another guy in this that was down here that gets drafted on day 2 even. So it's hard for me to really call anyone else really super winner than at that point, even if Memphis' Calvin Austin looked solid, looked like that the speed and sort of dynamism is real for him, but he's just tiny. But Tolbert looks like the one guy coming out of this where it's that guy can be a starting 1 or 2 in the NFL.
Yeah, Calvin Austin, 5'7", 173 pounds. He had some really impressive reps with this short area quickness, but obviously going to be very limited next time. Not going to be a true number 1 nor number 2. I know Trevor Sikkema really likes the North Dakota State wide receiver Christian Watson, who had a really good practice again today. 6'4", 211 pounds with 10-inch hands. He's got good size for the receiver position. It might be tough to see him fit into day 2, but I agree with you. My biggest winner was Jalen Tober of South Alabama. And I will say this, not only did he win a ton of the one-on-ones early in the week, but then even when we went into the red zone, had a handful of really nice releases, got the ball in the red zone as well. And all of the defensive backs were consistently talking to Tober about like his game and all that stuff. I think he earned a lot of respect this week, even though maybe he had one of the smaller school helmets on for sure.
Yeah. My biggest disappointment at the receiver position was the guy who came in as wide receiver 2 from sort of the rankings coming into this. And it was Romeo Doubs, the Nevada wide receiver. I thought he could have a similar week to what we saw from Jalen Tober. Like I saw them. Yikes. I saw them almost in a similar light. Obviously, he was higher on Tober. Thought he had a little more explosiveness, a little better catch point stuff. But Doubs was just wholly unphysical as a route runner. I couldn't believe it. And he had one of the weirdest plays all week in practice where they're just running warm-up sort of drills. And Carson Strong hangs him out to dry by throwing him a go ball into the practice that's going on the other side of the field, which was one of the weirdest things that, I don't know why I'm highlighting, but it was just like, couldn't believe my eyes that like his own quarterback threw him into, and he ran right into one of the coaches on the Jet staff, which was wild to me. But Doubs just like could not get off of physical corners. And it was something I highlighted for him at like the catch point that I thought with his size that's what he should be better at. And he never really was. And I can kind of see now why like he's just not a guy. He's a guy who wants to play like kind of a 5'10", 190 wide receiver instead of the 6'1", 200+ pounder that he is.
I do think Doubs had a better day in the red zone today. Yeah. However,
because he can shake guys. Like I think he relies on that a little too much, because that's why I liked him, is because he is capable of that, which guys at that size, not a lot of them are. But then also you need to have, all aspects of the game. You need to have that physicality as well. And then you're a tough wide receiver to stop. If he goes to the NFL with what he showed here, he's going to get his cheeks pressed. That was not what I really meant. Not how I really meant to say that, but
I'm going to move on.
You know what I'm saying.
Alec Pierce was my loser. I was excited to see him this week. The Cincinnati wide receiver who came in, I think 6'3", 208 pounds, who was one of the players named on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, but you just haven't seen a lot from him. Not a lot of separation. Was never really a big notable in the one-on-ones, and even in the red zone drills today, like did not have all that much success. I thought Alec Pierce in these situations would have played better, especially against this defensive back group. I know we're going to talk about them a little bit more and how there wasn't really a guy there. It wasn't a talented group on either side, really, with the receivers or the cornerbacks. So Alec Pierce not showing out with the size, all this athleticism. I was a little disappointed for sure from Alec Pierce, but I do think that Doubs is another disappointing player from the receiver group this week. Tight end. We both have the same winner. I think it's obvious, right? Yeah. I think he was far and away the best tight end in attendance here. Colorado State's Trey McBride.
Yeah, he was. And it was quite clear today, red zone with the tight ends. He, I think, had one rep out of the half dozen or so where he didn't just get open right away. And that was against Darien Beavers, the Cincinnati linebacker. But he is physical route. Like, he kind of has this all-around skill set. And, yeah, he's only 6'3", which is a little shorter than, probably the vast majority of stars in the NFL, but he makes plays outside his frame very well as well. So I'm not super worried about that. Very physical as a blocker. I don't think he has any trump card, and he's not a guy I'm probably drafting first or second round, truthfully. Yeah. Like, he's not that level.
I'm glad
of
we can
dynamic.
get ahead of that,
yeah,
right?
like,
because I do think, sorry to cut you off, but with the second round conversation, like I've seen Trey McBride consistently mocked at the back end of first rounds. I've seen him as top 30, top 40 player. It's like, maybe if you throw positional value out, you can start to think about him that way. But I am not touching Trey McBride probably in the first 50 picks, but still think he's very good, right? It's just the type of tight end he is.
Yeah. And it's the kind of the nature of the tight end position that they just are not moving the needle that much as pass catchers. So, and that's how I feel about Trey McBride. But compared to the rest of the class there, he was quite clearly the best in attendance.
We did not embrace debate for the tight end position, but Colt Turner was both our losers as well. But this
most disappointing.
Oh, sorry, losers. Most disappointing. Colt Turner, the Nevada receiver. Man, it was.
I'm glad you said receiver, because 246 pounds at 6'6", he was dramatically skinnier than even like Isaiah Likely, who was a guy that we said the Coastal Carolina tight end is like, that guy looks like a wide receiver on his tape. Colt Turner showed up and just that's just not a lot of mass throughout his lower half. Already I had question marks about him as a blocker. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy for you in the run game. And it wasn't even that guy in the passing game. It was a more concerning thing. You thought maybe you can get by with him enough as a run blocker if he's this special pass catcher, but he was stuck on dudes all week long.
I was disappointed in this tight end group overall, I think. I mean, I wanted to see more from Charlie Kolar, the Iowa State tight end. I wanted to see more from Greg Dulcich, who's 6'3", 248 with 11-inch hands. Isaiah Likely, who we've had on this podcast that we've liked at Coastal Carolina, 6'4", 241. None of those guys outside of Trey McBride really had like impressive weeks. And even with McBride, he played the best of all of them, but it was not a world-beating week for McBride either. He had a couple really good contested catches, but was never consistently creating separation, specifically downfield. So I think Jim Nagy, we had him on, and he talked about how good this tight end class is. I think it's good, and that's it, right? I don't think it's great. I don't think there are a lot of guys where you'd want to take them inside the top 50, top 60 picks and feel that good about them, obviously translating into like legitimate success in the NFL.
And honestly, after McBride, I'm not sure this guy I want in the top 100 here. Like it. And it's kind of, again, back to the indictment of the tight end position as a whole. And just the fact that you can find guys who have this serviceable skill sets there later on in the draft. Before
we get to offensive line and then on to defense, the Tailgate podcast is sponsored by Western and Southern Financial Group. While you focus on your roster moves, Western and Southern helps advance your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family like Mike Renner, wondering how to make your money grow? Western and Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to understand needs and address goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Last time we were in Mobile, you were considering starting a family with some of the people you met down here, but it's now moved past that, which I'm glad we're able to still see you single and kid free. Offensive tackle. Your biggest winner was the guy I wanted to highlight as my biggest winner. I'll say it, but I do have a second biggest winner I want to highlight. So go ahead and kick yours off.
Yeah, my biggest winner at the offensive tackle position was Washington State's Abraham Lucas. I just thought on tape you saw a wholly raw player. Like the way he plays off tackle at Washington State is not how you can play off tackle in the NFL. Like he lets anyone and their mother into his shoulder pads. He has hands wide as can be. In the run game there, the concepts they run are not NFL concepts. I don't think I saw a combo block on his tape, like a single one. Like they just don't do that. Goes here and using his hands a lot better. I think hitting his landmarks in pass protection a lot better. Actually looking like he belongs in the running game. Like some of the blocks he had at the second level is very, very impressive. So I always like what he could do physically, but I think you saw a massive leap even from a few months ago when we saw him on tape, and just in terms of technique. And he's probably obviously been putting in the work somewhere since then. And that's always something you like to see from prospects. So a guy who I had, like I said, serious concerns from a technical standpoint with his tape, who is in the process of answering those. And that's a big plus for him. And like I said, my biggest winner at the position this week.
And answering those technical concerns with the frame he has is going to mean really good things for him come draft day. 6'6", 322, nearly 35-inch arms, 81 3/8-inch wingspan, over 10-inch hands. That's what you want, right, from the offensive tackle position. There are other guys here that are a bit smaller or have shorter arms where there are more conversations, not about their technique, but about their frame and how they can overcome that. Lucas, it's like, dude, you have it. Yeah. Let's see you put it to work. I actually wanted to highlight Tulsa's Chris Paul. I thought he was really impressive in the one-on-one, specifically in pass protection. He's not the biggest guy here. I think that's been some of the concern with Chris Paul, but he has looked really good in pass protection. I also thought his technique was really good. He was one of the guys that even after his pass sets would go and he finished the rep, he'd always close it out, just like doing a couple more, which I thought was kind of funny. But Chris Paul, 6'3", 324, 34-inch arms. He had a really good week. I did not watch a ton of his tape, admittedly, going into this week, but coming out of it, it's definitely one of those guys I want to go back and watch more of.
Yeah, it was like when you hit a three-pointer and hold your follow-through.
Yeah,
that was him with his pass sets, whereas after it was over, he'd pump a few more hands and be like, yes, eat that.
He had some swagger to him.
I did like, and he's a guy who is mean in the run game. I think he could be an interesting guard convert because he's not the most fleet of foot, and that even showed at times here. But that dude is powerful. His lower body was about as thick as anyone's in attendance. So I was a fan of his as well. Lowest, what were we calling this? Biggest disappointment. this guy is the biggest guy here. You said Chris Paul wasn't the biggest guy there. Daniel Faalele is the biggest guy there. Is one of the biggest guys in human history, in fact. One of the biggest players in NFL history, college football history, and I think he's too big. I think on tape, you just saw issues with him. Saw issues with him that I don't know if they get fixed. And at that size, you worry about injuries as well. And there are just things that, there's things that he's going to be able to do at that size that no one else is going to be able to do. Like he had reps where he would just touch linebackers seemingly and they'd fly off of him because that's the kind of power he just possesses in that frame. But
he also had reps though in pass protection where like if they did not win with their initial move, they're kind of like they can't get around him, right? Like he's that big. But there are some of the speed stuff is what killed him.
Yeah, it's not going to get fixed. Like people view him as a project, but I think the things that I worry about him in terms of like being able to play low at 6'8" plus, and that size, being able to react and mirror, being able to just have recoverability when you're a little off balance, when it's that heavy, like when you're moving that much weight, just it's different. And I don't think that I don't see the athletic project that maybe others are seeing in terms of like fixability.
Obviously unfortunate because I think he's an early fan favorite among draft fans.
I mean, I can see why. Like you want the freaks to turn into that sort of theoretical potential.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, think of what 6'9", 390 can do moving like that, and it's like, yeah, but sometimes it never becomes what you want it to become.
My disappointing offensive tackle on the week was Max Mitchell of Louisiana, a guy that graded super well for us, has actually improved his PFF grade every year of his career at Louisiana. A lot of that in the run blocking, but in pass protection in these one-on-ones, he was the guy that was consistently coming back to the huddle kind of with his head held low. He was not winning a lot of these one-on-ones and going against some of these pass rushers like Arnold Ebiketie and Kingsley Enagbare. I mean, there's so many talented pass rushers here. I think he was a bit overmatched in pass protection. And even going back to his grading profile, right? He's never graded all that well in pass protection, even in his highest this past season. Just an 82.5 PFF pass blocking grade has never been in the upper 85s or anything along those lines. I think you saw that this week.
Yes, he was just slim. Like the physicality of it was too much. I think you just sort of the concern on him being 299 pounds, playing competition level he did, not having that play strength was just amplified. And he was going up against Jermaine Johnson on a lot of those reps that really got exposed. But like that's the NFL. You know? Like those are the guys you're going to be facing next year. So unfortunately for him, did not have the best of weeks.
Into your offensive line, I know you wanted to highlight former Georgia offensive tackle Jamari Sailor, who's played a lot on the inside this week.
Yeah, well, you're just going to steal who I was going to say.
I was just trying to give you a nice lead.
Yes, I'm going to say for the biggest winner on interior offensive line, Georgia offensive lineman Jamari Sailor.
That's good. That's a surprise.
Yeah, I know, right? So I in the draft guide said he's not a tackle. This guy isn't a tackle, but you really didn't see a ton of him at guard. And he had played guard. He played literally every position on the offensive line on his tape at Georgia, but hadn't seen a ton. And in Georgia, they don't pass protect a ton. It's a lot of RPOs, a lot of play action. You're not getting a lot of one-on-ones. That's obviously what the Senior Bowl is all about. So you see a ton of those. I thought his hands were very heavy. I thought you saw a much more under control guy who just was better in a phone booth. Just like when he can get his hands on you right away, he can end reps. And I think that's his biggest strength. And he just struggled to locate guys basically when he was out at tackle, having to play in space. That's far less of an issue when you are on the inside. So Jamari Salyer wasn't super high on him. I think this guy's if talking about true guard prospects in this class, he's going to be in the top, I'd say 5 at this point, if not higher than that.
My winner was actually Zion Johnson. The Boston College guard, who a lot of people like for his frame. And then he shows up in the one-on-ones and has played really, really well, playing a mixture of guard and center. He actually, too, after every single practice, even the rainy one on Wednesday, took extra snaps. He was just snapping, trying to show
play center.
Yeah, trying to show that he can play center or guard at the next level. I thought he was really, really impressive. And we had high expectations for Zion Johnson going in, but I think he's even exceeded those.
Yes, I think you can see him ending up in the first round.
Really?
Like in terms of just like it's a clean guard prospect. No, we don't value guard obviously that much at PFF. We think there's always ones you can find in the third or fourth round that end up being starters, but yeah, certain teams will pay a premium for that sometimes, and I think he's a fairly safe guard prospect.
Your most disappointing?
Most disappointing was Tennessee's Cade Mays. This guy, former 5-star, started off his career at Georgia, has played tackle in the past, and has the physical size and honestly movement ability. Could have been a tackle, but was a mess anywhere he lined up this week, and just really never developed from early on in his Georgia career to transferring to Tennessee to late on in his career at Tennessee to now here at the Senior Bowl, and he still just gets his hands taken away every time and just doesn't have the feet to stick in front of dudes. It was a bad week for Cade Mays. He's a late round dude now after this. I mean, it was probably before, but kind of confirmed that here.
Some others that I didn't even have high expectations on, but I just didn't want to continue to highlight the same loser you had. But
don't call them losers.
Loser, disappointing person. Andrew Stuber of Michigan, Cole Strange of Chattanooga. Both those guys were on the receiving end of some beatings from the interior defensive line. On the other side there, I think Stuber was driven back more than maybe you expected with his size, and Cole Strange, like whether it was at center or guard. So, Cole Strange really did struggle to hold his own. Now there were some reps where he did win, but I felt like you did not like seeing how often he was bowled into the quarterback this week against some of the defensive tackles we'll probably highlight soon.
Yeah. All right. Defensive tackles.
Let's do it. Devonte.
You want to tell? No, you were just going to do it again.
I did it again. But I mean, he's obviously the biggest winner. This guy was insane.
Yes. Devonta Wyatt, the Georgia defensive tackle, was tough, man. That guy throws a difficult package at you. Yikes, he keeps making these weird things. I mean, he has a difficult package to defend against with his speed, his power, and his agility. It's not so.
What did you say before? Your cheeks pressed
and his feet. Yeah, he's got his cheeks pressed.
He's got
he was pressing cheeks all week. Devonta Wyatt, though, this guy it's not only a lot. I feel like a lot of the DTs that have, he's probably going to run somewhere in the low 4.9s to high 4.8s in terms of at 307 pounds, which is already freaky. But a lot of those guys that come out and have that straight line juice, the Neville Gallimores of the world, the Justin Matabukis of the world, are one, about 10 to 15 pounds lighter than him. And two, it is just in a straight line. They try to do anything.
Yeah, it's the side to side.
They try to do anything laterally, and it doesn't look the same. With Wyatt, I mean, he would hit you with. He was hitting guys with Euro steps, which is it doesn't happen a lot. Defensive tackles. That's a move for 250-pound edge rushers. And Devonta Wyatt's coming off the ball, giving that to guys. And I think you saw a few more bull rushes from him this week than he ever put on tape from Georgia. And yeah, he's on the older end. I believe he's going to be 24 when he gets drafted, which a little worrisome. But I think it's more worrisome for guys who are strength players, guys who get by on that sort of physical dominance of power, whereas this guy gets by on pure athletic dominance that ain't gonna be changed at the NFL level. There's not a lot of guards that have the feet to match up with Devonta Wyatt still. So I was a fan of what he put on tape. He lost maybe a rep in the one-on-ones. It was an impressive week.
It's the speed, right? The speed at that size was insane. I'm going to highlight two, actually. I'm going to go for a twofer here. Two winners for me, Travis Jones and Perion Winfrey. These are guys that really exploded on days 2 and 3 of this one. I think Travis Jones showed that he has a nasty bull rush, a ton of strength, can go through guys every single time. And Perion Winfrey, he has that same bully type of strength too, and had won with a lot of bull rushes, but also had some good speed to him as well. A lot of energy. The Oklahoma defensive tackle, Perion Winfrey. I think both of those guys rose their stock significantly, probably by a half round with how they showed up this week.
Yeah, Travis Jones, I would say expect him to come off in the top 50 picks. Probably not first round, but if he's still there at pick 50, I'd be surprised because he looks like a pretty safe bet to be a starting caliber nose tackle for a long time. And not just your run defending Devon Hamilton type who went around 52 or something in that range. But this guy also was throwing guards, centers, has some real pass rushing potential to him and has 34-inch arms, 6'4", 326. That's an ideal build for a nose tackle as well. So big fan of his. And that Perion Winfrey is a guy that his tape and the scheme at Oklahoma was so difficult for his evaluation. Here, you really saw the juice he brings to the table and kind of play with a lot more violence and urgency than I saw on tape at Oklahoma. And again, some of that can be the scheme that he's in. So for Perrin Winfrey with 35.5-inch arms and 85 and 5/8 inch wingspan, a freaky build for a defensive tackle. I think he's firmly in the second round mix now.
Your biggest disappointment on the interior defensive line?
My biggest disappointment was Alabama DT Federian Mathis. A dude that I still think is going to be a good NFL player. Don't get me wrong. I still think he's a solid NFL player, but I think that's kind of it. Like he is struggled to call guys capped, that there's no room for improvement, but he kind of just is what he is, which is a great two-gapper, a great pocket pusher who isn't going to actually beat you one-on-one with a lot. He lost a lot of reps where he tried to, the vast majority of reps where he actually tried to put a move on you or whatever, just didn't go anywhere. Like his best reps were just trying to go straight through guys, trying to get into their pads and then separate. That's just going to be who he is. That's kind of who he is athletically and with his build. So a no-nonsense type of player. Like I said, he's still going to be a solid NFL pro, but I've seen him top 50 of big boards, and I just don't think that's a top 50 pick. Yeah, I think that's a guy you find in the third round.
I think I'm going to have Federian Mathis as my biggest disappointment as well, but a name I wanted to bring up, which is kind of more of an unfortunate situation, is Haskell Garrett, who did not have like a fantastic week. I do think that there were some reps on day 2 where it was great, but today... You
just saw the size show up. It just doesn't have the power behind him at the size.
Today, though, I think in a rep against Tober, the Michigan offensive lineman, he gets hurt. Right, he goes down, looked like a shoulder injury. He was slow to get up. They moved on pretty quickly from practice, but he did not return. It looks unlikely with even regard. I don't want to speak to what the injury is, but it looks unlikely that he'll play in the game coming up. I think Haskell Garrett, that is just maybe not a disappointment, but obviously unfortunate for a guy who's obviously pushing his way into the league. Edge defender, your biggest winner.
Yeah, so Jermaine Johnson, let's get it out of the way. The Florida State edge was the best of anyone in attendance. But I thought D'Angelo Malone, the Western Kentucky edge, I liked what I saw from him in terms of he's 6'3", 234 pounds. He is not big. Get that out of the way. But he has 33-inch arms, which is, I'd say, average for edge. Is very much passable on the edge and had multiple, and this is the key here, multiple bull rush wins on his tape, like playing through opposing offensive tackles to where you could see this guy become a legitimate DPR at the next level, to where on passing downs, if you're a team that likes to run stunts, likes to run games or have like a bunch of linebackers walked up on the line of scrimmage, this is a guy you're probably going to covet, because I think that the pass rushing tools are there. You just worry about, can he play with power? Does he have multiple ways to win? I think he showed a little bit more of that this week. I
had Jermaine Johnson here as obviously a big winner, but the name I wanted to focus more on was Minnesota's Boye Mafe, who I think had some of the highest pass rush win rates of any player in attendance here at the Senior Bowl. PFF does track those win rates in every single rep, and even beat Bernard Ryman on a rep as well, one of the top-ranked tackles here in attendance for the Senior Bowl. Mafe, still want to see more in the run game. I think an interesting thing is Boye Mafe, I think, showed what I wanted to see from Myjai Sanders as a pass rusher. But then Myjai Sanders showed what I wanted to see from Boye Mafe in run defense and the team drills and stuff like that. Like, Sanders looked good in run defense.
Whoa.
What?
That was a lot to throw at me.
Was it a lot?
No, I'm kidding.
Boye Mafe looked good as a pass rusher, not great in run defense, whereas Myjai Sanders did not look great in the one-on-ones as a pass rusher, but did show up in run defense, even had some really impressive reps against Daniel Falele. So Mafe, maybe an incomplete player, and I'd say maybe Myjai Sanders, something similar, but I still think a winner in that he's able to go up against some of these top offensive tackles and put on a show.
Okay, my biggest disappointment, I'm going to go Zachary Carter from Florida. And now he's a tweener. He's 6'3", 287. So he's really probably not an edge. I think that's the biggest thing is why he's a disappointment, because I don't think he can play off the edge and rush the passer. I don't think that's where you want him to be. And then at 287 pounds, I'm not sure you want him inside in run defense. He is that tweener body type, and it showed a lot of reps this week. And now he won more from the interior as pass rusher. That's where he can win. But I just have concerns about if he's going to play, a full workload, because again, doesn't have a great positional fit.
I kind of cheated with my biggest disappointment.
Okay.
My biggest disappointment is Cameron Thomas, San Diego State. He did not play all week.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Did not play all week. He had a hamstring injury that I think he suffered last Wednesday and got into pads on the first day of practice, did some warm-ups, did not like how it felt, and ended up not practicing all week and will not be playing in the game. And this is a guy that was consistently mocked at the back end of the first round, right? A former San Diego State legend, 6'4", 264, 33 and 1/8 inch arms with 10-inch hands. I thought he'd show up, and if he had a good week, could really cement his first round status. Mm-hmm. Now, with Jermaine Johnson coming up the board, I think people like Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State, it's getting to the point where can you also put Cameron Thomas in there? You want Zion Johnson in the back of the first round? This is the stuff that separates it, right? If you do have this injury, a lot of it is availability in the pre-draft process. If you can't test, if you can't go to these all-star bowls, you could see yourself fall to people where you just have more tape on, right? More tape, more positive tape. So I do think Thomas, I don't know how much we'll see him mocked in the first round moving forward. I think there will be these names, right? These names we've talked about that actually had a chance to perform at the Senior Bowl that do replace him ultimately in those top 32 picks.
And I also will just add to Thomas's sort of not having a great week of he was listed at 6'5", 275, which that sort of conjures up a certain type of edge rusher. And on tape, he kind of filled that niche of a guy who has this interior versatility, wins a lot inside as well, can line up over offensive tackles and two gap if you need him to. He can be that guy for you. And he shows up 6'4", 264, which 264 is not an interior player. You're going to struggle to get by even as a 4 or 5 technique, head up over an offensive tackle at the next level with 33 and 1/8 inch arms. Like just kind of a struggle. It's not a mediocre body type, but it's not that versatile body type that can go inside and outside like he did at San Diego State. That's an edge. Like he is going to be on the edge. So it's going to be concerning to see or to have not seen how he can win the edge because he was a guy we've highlighted before was an inside move. He was not a bend the edge type of rusher. That's not his game. And so we just don't know now. So I like you said, I don't think he's going to be in a lot of first round mocks moving forward.
My biggest winner for off-ball linebacker.
I'm just going to flip the
I flipped the order accidentally in the rundown, but I kind of love it. I kind of like keeping people.
I'm going to start. No, okay, Brian Asamoah is the biggest winner at the linebacker position. Screw whoever you were going to say is your biggest winner. Now,
what?
Oklahoma's Brian Asamoah is a possible first-rounder after this. I'm just going to say it.
Wow.
Do not be surprised if this guy goes the first round. If Jamin Effin Davis can go in the first round because he's a freak athlete, and I think Brian Asamoah, he was a Bruce Feldman's freaks guy. At 220 pounds, he benches or squats over 500 pounds is why he made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He has a freaky build, too. At 6'1", 222 pounds, he has 33 and 5/8 inch arms. The guy is lanky for days, and that reminds me a lot of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, just in terms of the explosiveness and physicality he plays with at that size to where I'm not worried at all about that size. I mean, it'll show up at times, but he can play in the box and take on offensive tackles. He stacked Trevor Penning in a rep. Trevor Penning, baddest dude on the block. He goes right up, puts his two hands in his chest, throws him to the side. Like Brian Asamoah is the real deal in terms of complete all-around modern NFL linebacker skill set to where, like I said, I think this guy should be in the first-round conversation after this week.
Asamoah was a guy you literally talked about every day this week.
He's just a very impressive athlete, and I was floored that no one else talking about him.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah,
but this is also not a great showcase for linebackers, and why in the one-on-ones, if you're watching at practice, you're watching either wide receivers or you're watching the O-line, D-line. No one's watching the fucking running backs go up against linebackers. Mm-hmm. Except for your boy.
Except for me. I'm doing it.
No, I didn't.
My biggest winner was Darien Beavers of Cincinnati. I think he's the guy that I talked to you about pretty much every day this week. I've been a big fan of Beavers. 6'4", 252, 32 and 5/8 inch arms with an 81 inch wingspan. And he, in addition to having really good size for the linebacker position, I felt never at any point was being out-athleted, for lack of a better term. Like there are some of these
best term.
Some of these guys that show up this big at linebacker just get dusted. Yeah. Dusted in the running back linebacker drills, dusted in the passing game in general. But he was not. Like he could hold his own. He was physical, played well really down. I mean, I think this guy is going to be a very solid player in the NFL. I think you can start to consistently see him mocked in this pick 40 to 70 range. I think in that mid-day 2 range for Darien Beavers. And you're going to be really excited about what you get because I think he has special teams floor as well. I think Darien Beavers kind of solidified himself as one of those guys that I really like at linebacker on day 2.
Yeah, he's not he's not going to match up with wide receivers. That's not who he is. But tight ends, oh yeah. He looked good against tight ends this week. He had some of the best reps that anyone had against Trey Mcbride, the Colorado State tight end, who we highlighted as the biggest winner. So, yeah, I think Darien Beavers, it's a day 2 type of linebacker after this week.
Your biggest loser?
Not loser.
Oh my gosh, I keep saying it. Your biggest disappointment?
Disappointment. I think I'm going to go with you. I had a different guy written down, but I expected a little more from Chad Muma, the Wyoming linebacker. He was nondescript as can be in the pass rushing drills, and that was kind of something you saw on his tape. It's like he's 6'2", 241. And if you would have told me he's 227 pounds, I probably would have believed you, because on his tape, it's not physical.
No.
But as a run and chase, speed is tremendous. It's what you want at the position. But the 241 pounds is almost doing nothing for him at this point, because he goes backwards on contact too often. He is not a take-on guy, and it just showed a lot. And then you also didn't have a lot of high-end reps and coverage. So, yeah, Chad Muma at that point, love the instincts, and like I said, love the speed, but the physicality or lack thereof is going to be an issue in the NFL.
I really thought that he, there's drills where he goes running back, tight end, tight end versus linebacker, running back versus linebacker in the passing game, where I was really concerned, and where I was wanting to highlight him as my biggest disappointment was when he was rushing the passer in these like running back versus linebacker, pass blocking drills, and getting bullied, like absolutely bullied. That just can't happen at his size and with his athleticism. And I think that was where I really kind of drew the line in the sand for me to say, like, okay, he's not ascending coming out of this week.
Yeah, and so he's actually an inch taller, to go back to Asamoah and how freaky this dude is. He's an inch taller than Brian Asamoah and almost 5 inches smaller wingspan.
Oh my gosh.
Brian Asamoah is an 80-inch wingspan. It's just over 6 foot.
That's insane.
And Chad was at 75.
Those arms. Cornerbacks, your biggest winner.
My biggest winner at cornerback, and
I have the same one as you. It was tough to pick, but I think the reason I picked you, and I'll let you go, but this guy of anyone was getting so many positive reviews from the coaches, and it was Tariq Castro-Fields.
Yes.
Tariq Castro-Fields was consistently, the Penn State corner was getting consistently praised by the defensive backs coaches here at the Senior Bowl for the efforts that he was making. I'll say this. Not a lot of other defensive backs were getting that kind of praise.
Yeah, he, I think, quite easily has the best press technique of anyone there. And like actual physical press. Roger McCreary's great in press coverage, but as like a press and run type of corner where he's not going to lock you down at the line of scrimmage. He gets the press to maintain that sort of contact, whereas Tariq Castro-Fields would shut down reps at the line of scrimmage at times. 31 1/8 inch arms. Good size at 6 foot 194. He was definitely impressive in certain reps, but again, up and down. He's not a match man corner. He is not going to easily and smoothly follow you across the football field. He has to win there at the line with his physicality. For biggest disappointment, I wanted to go with someone that wasn't one of the small school guys, right? There were some small school guys here. Oh yeah, actually yours is dead right. I screwed up with mine. I originally had Tariq Woolen, the UTSA, because I had high hopes for how freaky this dude is at 6'3", over 200, with just this pterodactyl wingspan. But
I was going to go with Darien Kendrick. Darien
Yes,
Kendrick, the Georgia cornerback. He did have some better reps today in the red zone stuff, but when they were doing the vertical routes in the field, right, in days 1 and 2, he just did not look in place, right? He just did not look like Darien Kendrick of Georgia, right? One of these guys that a lot of people coveted as a top 50 player in this class. You did not see top 50 talent. I'm glad you wrote down Woolen, because he's a disappointment, because he shows up and he's like, that's the freakiest defensive back I've ever seen.
Yeah.
How big he is, how long his arms are, how long his legs are. Chris Ballard was right there on the sideline. You know how much he loves long cornerbacks. He was watching Woolen very closely here at the Senior Bowl. That's the type of cornerback he likes. But even then, there were times where you run a slant against Woolen and he gets your hand on you, you're toast. But if you burn him at the line, it's not going to happen, right? Like he's not going to be able to have that makeup speed. But I have Darien Kendrick as the biggest loser as well.
Yeah, Kendrick's just he's not fast. He's not like at even to me at the athletic threshold that you want for a starting cornerback in the NFL. I think that was the biggest thing that just stood out, is that there's no, to bring up Chris Ballard, he always preaches recover. How can you recover? Because you're gonna lose in some ways on defense, or you're gonna be behind in some ways on defense.
You're always reacting.
He covets guys that have some way of recovering, and I just don't see what Darien Kendrick has to help him recover.
Closing out the biggest winners and biggest disappointments, we both have Jalen Petrie of Baylor there. I don't think anyone's coming away from this practice, Mike, without saying, holy shit, Jalen Petrie is really good. Jalen Petrie, the Baylor safety / slot cornerback, was by far the most impressive in the one-on-ones. And honestly, he was really impressive in team too. Like, his physicality showed up all week.
Yeah, he's only 5'10", 196, but that doesn't bother me whatsoever. Like, that size is, who cares with the way he plays the game of football. And in the one-on-ones and coverage, like, he was the best regardless of position. And he's a slot corner / safety, looking better than any of the outside corners there when matched up one-on-one. There's not a lot of holes in this dude's game.
Biggest disappointment for me, man, is because coming off the bus, Yusuf Corker of Kentucky, 5'11", 204, is an intimidating dude. He is jacked up. This guy could probably play running back. I don't know. But he was really stiff, though. I think you saw a lot of stiffness in his game. And when you're getting defensive backs, when they're playing in so much space, you don't want to see, when pressed to move side to side, like in a clutch situation, in a one-on-one drill, them struggle. Right, and you saw that a lot with Yusuf Corker. Despite how rocked up this dude is, I was disappointed when you actually turned on the tape.
Fair point. I went differently. I went with Miami's Sterling Weatherford. I believe I've called him a poor man's Kyle Hamilton, and that's purely because he is kind of physically built like Kyle Hamilton. He's shade over 6'3", 230 pounds, 31 3/8-inch arms, and played safety at Miami. Now, the reason I was disappointed is because he comes here, has added about 10 pounds to play linebacker in the NFL. He comes in to try to play linebacker and couldn't even guard running backs. He still looked out of place against running backs, which was the scary thing. It's like, this guy, you're thinking safety, oh, you must have this coverage ability, and it didn't see it.
It was a disappointing week for Sterling Weatherford for sure. How we wanted to close this out before we get out, though, is first rounders. Who in the Senior Bowl do we feel pretty confident will come off the board in the first 32 picks? Before we do, proud sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast, your favorite. Roses are red, violets are blue. Don't let a wild pube wreck you. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and our sponsors at Manscaped are here for you with the best tools to get your balls ready for the special occasion. This V-Day, it's time to join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. With our exclusive offer, go to manscaped.com and use code PFF for 20% off plus free shipping. The holidays went by so quickly. Do you remember? Did you even remember to take care of your package with the best tools for the job? The complete package.
Devonta Wyatt did.
The Performance Package 4.0 on Manscaped is just the thing every guy needs in their life to make each and every day just a little more. That was aggressive. Every day of your life gets better with Manscaped. I'd like to propose making February 13th a national holiday as National Shave Your Balls Day. Who's with me? I think this one is a holiday that men and women can get behind. Manscaped created their products for a night that, like this, will make your V-Day date say, wow, great set of balls you have there.
Speaking of shaving, get off this topic.
This topic? You mean this read that I have to get through still?
Yeah. Oh, is it still going? Continue.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code PFF. Join Cupid and shoot your arrow with Manscaped this Valentine's Day. Wow, great set of balls you have there.
All right. So here in Mobile, I'm sharing a room with you. I have been for the last week and a half. You shave your face the first night here. And I couldn't help but notice you weren't using the Lawnmower 4.0 to do so.
I wasn't. I use it for... And I can't double dip.
Secondly, I double dip, but I have two different blades.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
But you still use
two different blades.
You still use... I don't even
The
like
rest
that.
isn't touching much. I'll just say that. But
I know. I still think that's a lot. That's close to the vest. And sometimes you forget to swap the blade.
No, I don't.
Or I swap a blade for you, and you're like, I've done that before. No, you did not. What'd you mark them with? Pubes versus face? What'd you mark them with?
With spot on my counter. And you had hair all over the goddamn stuff.
I know. I was in a rush.
Did not clean it.
I was in a rush.
It was...
Senior Bowl's been a jam-packed week.
Yeah.
Manscaped, I still use the Lawnmower 4.0. Don't you think for a second I don't. I just use a different razor on my face.
I don't.
Gotta keep it. The Performance Package 1.0 is exclusively used for the download.
It's still
treatment.
the lawn. It's still a lawn that I want to protect. First rounders, though.
Go ahead.
Here we go. I think coming out of this, I am willing to say 4 guys I feel certain from here are going to be first rounders. I think
Wow.
Malik Willis is going to be a first rounder, the Liberty quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Bernard Raymond,
Yes.
the Central Michigan tackle, is going to be a first rounder. Trevor Penning, the Northern Iowa tackle, is going to be a first rounder. And then Jermaine Johnson, the Florida State edge, he is also going to be a first rounder. Feel good saying that. I think there are strong possibilities that Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder are still first rounders at the quarterback position. There are strong possibilities that Zion Johnson at guard is a first rounder. Devonta Wyatt at Georgia. Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, the edge rusher. Brian Asamoah, the Oklahoma linebacker. And then Jalen Petrie, the Baylor safety. I think all those guys are in the conversation now for first rounders. What say you in terms of, do you like my locks? Do you want to
You
lock
had
in
Trevor
anyone
Penning
else?
as a lock.
I have Trevor Penning as a lock. Do you want to add anyone else to that list?
I think that's
Or
tough,
subtract?
right? I think it's important, too, to kind of set the stage with first rounders. I think this conversation for the 2022 class is different because we were talking about this before. In 2021, I would take probably 10, 11, 12 of those guys before I take even one from the 2022 class. Right?
Really?
When you think about the 5 quarterbacks, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen
Is
Waddle.
this in revisionist history in terms of like?
I don't think so,
No.
right? Did you have would you take a single receiver in this class over Smith, Waddle, or Chase?
Wait, that's like a different conversation.
Okay.
You're talking about Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
12 guys you would take over Aiden Hutchinson from last year.
I think so. I think there might be that many.
Okay.
Rashawn
I just
Slater.
disagree.
Who would you take? Who would you?
I mean, I would have taken Aiden Hutchinson over Rashawn Slater as a prospect.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
I would take an Aiden Hutchinson over like Devonte Smith as a prospect. So that's probably your cutoff.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have those players ranked. I'd have those players ranked higher.
Okay.
But that's why I was trying to frame the conversation where you think like, oh, is he a first round player? I do think that this class is different. Like
Yeah.
this class is a lot different. You're going to see some of these guys sneak in the back end that maybe in like other classes wouldn't be first rounders. But I think Arnold Ebiketie sneaking in, I think is a possibility. I do like Jermaine Johnson as a lock, Bernard Raymond as a lock. Trevor Penning's interesting. I think the penalties are a wild one. I think some offensive line coaches will like that. And obviously, I think you should lock in more than one quarterback. There's no way only one quarterback goes in the first round, right?
Yeah. I think Sam Howell is going to be a first rounder too, just based off of talent and like he has had good years and is a true junior coming out. It's different than he's the only one. He's the only third year player in this draft class, the quarterback position. So, yeah, I could lock Sam Howell.
Willis, Howell, Raymond, Penning, Johnson as your locks, I think are great.
5.
That's fine. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think maybe some others sneak in. I think we ultimately said there's probably 8 here, right? Maybe at most. Yeah,
I would honestly be floored if Devonta Wyatt's not a first rounder after this week.
Yeah.
I just think he was that good. He's going to test that well. And teams still need DTs. And it's like when it's a weak DT class, they get pushed up. You know, you're not going to find a dude running a 4.9 in the third round. Yeah. Actually, you might, but he's going to stink out. So
that's going to do it for this episode of Tailgate. This will be our last episode for this week. Next time you'll hear from us, we'll be on our way to LA for the Super Bowl. A lot of traveling, dude. We are traveling like a monster right now. I am excited, though. Definitely excited to get to the Super Bowl. Have you ever been to a Super Bowl?
No.
I haven't either. I'm excited. Should be quite the time. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We'll be getting to the mailbags again soon. No mailbag this week, but we should be getting to the mailbags again here in the near future, maybe down in the Super Bowl for that. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, Tailgate.